We're here with Peter Johnson, candidate for mayor. Peter, tell us what inspired you to run for this office.
So I'll tell you what, one of the biggest issues that I see is just the lack of representation that we have as residents. A lot of my stance and my platform is based off of our spending habits. A lot of the issues around Palm Coast revolve around taxes and development, how they're being the influx of residents and how the taxes are affecting people who have been here for a while. We have failed to bring common sense back to the dais at a local level. We have failed to do a good job of bringing all of our members' community on the same page because, I mind you, the majority of the members of the community here are on the same page. We need better community buy-in. We need a leader who is going to step up and enact actual change and not kowtow to special interest groups. And quite frankly, we've seen that as of recently. So one of my big factors in running, besides for the overdevelopment, is that I truly believe that Palm Coast, and I may have even said this before to you or to other groups, we have a fund allocation issue. We have never had a fund generating issue in Palm Coast. We've never had a problem collecting tax dollars. It is where we are putting that money going forward that is an issue. And quite frankly, prior administrations, decades with no planning, have put us into a really nasty position where now the residents, who by the way have been here for a while and also are unexpectedly buying into the turmoil that we face, they're footing the bill for it, and it's not fair. We are going to do a few drastic things not on day one per se, but in general. We're going to address the land development code and make it more palatable to what Palm Coast has historically seen. We are going to make sure that we stop the massive rezoning from our commercial lands to single family, multifamily, and we are going to make sure that we do not incur any more of a burden on our base of tax residents. And the last thing that we are going to do in regards to the development is we are going to specifically, every time that the impact fees come up to be reassessed, make sure, I understand that impact fees are never going to cover everything, but make sure that they are covering the vast majority, because during this last economic boom where we had all this development, the impact fees were not properly assessed. Therefore, we missed out on a nice chunk of change from the actual people who have affected the area. And by the way, I say that lightly. It's not the new residents' fault that our government is being irresponsible in how they're handling the growth and management of this town. It's our councils, and specifically it's our mayors.
So when we talk about economic development, what are your plans to attract industry here if we're just kind of keeping most folks at bay?
Absolutely. That's a great question. We're going to tackle a few things. I have spoke to some of the larger businesses in Palm Coast, and I don't mean Wawas and Circle K's. I'm talking about business owners that employ 114, 115, however many employees, right? Those nice, not too big, but those mid-level size businesses. They have told me directly, numerous ones, they've told the city council what we need to do. In fact, they've given me a plan on how to do it, and I've worked with them on how to do it. They said they've been ignored for the last decade. They said the city hasn't done the basic things. They say that everything that I am saying in my platform is correct, and the proper way to address the growth of the city in addition to the needs that we face while maintaining and retaining our workforce that is missing here. We don't have a workforce for the jobs to support the residents that are coming into the area. It's a pyramid scheme.
And so how do you still manage to keep MedNexus and those kinds of things that we've established going?
So that's a great, I actually, this is one area that I think was decent, but missed the mark. MedNexus, Daytona State, we have Flagler Technical Institute, UNF is talking about coming down here, UCF will eventually probably make its way up. We have missed the mark on one thing. We need young residents who will also foster that community to build the industry, or I say industry, the mom and pop restaurants, the local shopping boutiques. We need student housing, and there has been no emphasis placed on student housing in Palm Coast. All this talk about affordable housing, you can't get an apartment for less than $2,000. The real affordable housing is the student housing, because we have one of the best programs in the state and in the country for nursing right here locally with Daytona State. We now have the MedNexus coming in. We now have other schools. We are going to become a melting pot, but yet there has been no addressing where are all these students going to live because housing isn't affordable. Now, I will say, I care, not care less, but I care very little about how much the student housing costs, because a lot of this is people from other areas. Like if you need student housing, you're not from this area. Your family's not from here. If you need student housing, you're coming in from outside, which is usually funded by parents of the children coming to the school. So at that point, it doesn't matter. We need a worker base. And one of the key ways that we can attract a worker base is by bringing in students to the housing area. And they have the land, but yet no one has even attempted to make any sort of play. They just want everyone to come in and just sprinkle out on houses that cost $300,000, $400,000. I say this all the time. $15 an hour is about the average pay in Palm Coast. You make $4,000 a month pre-tax. You can't get an apartment for less than $2,000. You're spending 50%. That's affordable? It's not.
Thank you so much. That's a really enlightening
I
perspective.
appreciate it. We've had a bunch of great conversations out here tonight. I just want to give a special thanks to Flagler Tiger Bay for hosting this event. You guys for coming out, all the news sources. We really need to do a job of educating the voter base. Please, your vote matters to everyone listening. We just need people involved and engaged. It takes civic engagement to enact actual meaningful change. So thank you.